governance and compliance. So in this module, we are going to discuss about governance, compliance, how we will manage our account policies. So before going to understand that, we need to understand reasons. So into cloud, services are distributed into data center, which would be within a region which represents a geography. So a region represents collection of data centers. So within one region, you will get multiple data centers, which provides flexibility and scale. So you can choose multiple data center to create your resources. You can choose your region which would be near to your location to reduce latency or to meet with compliance, legal requirement. Preserve data residency. Select regions close to your users. Be aware of region deployment availability. What it does mean, it means there are few services which would be available in few regions. So service which you are deploying might be that service is not available in your region, so you have to check region availability in that case. There are global services that are region independent, like Azure Front Door, Traffic Manager. So we have services which are region independent global services. Regions are paired for high availability. So each region is paired with a secondary region. Like if I'm talking about East US, so East US is paired with West US. Central India, it paired with West India. So you get paired regions. What benefit you will get? There are few services in which you will get replication by default. Correct? Where Microsoft will by default use secondary region, paired region, which would be 300 miles away from primary region. Similarly, when it comes to replication or DR, by default Microsoft will choose paired region as your secondary region. You can change this region later. You can decide which region would be your secondary region, but by default it will choose always paired region. In Microsoft Azure worldwide, there are 60 plus regions available in 140 countries. Any idea how many regions are available into AWS or Google? Any idea, anyone? How many regions we have in AWS and Google Cloud till now? So in AWS, I think we have 30 plus regions, and in Google we have 22 plus regions. So as compared to AWS and Google, you have more regions into Microsoft Azure Cloud. Subscriptions. So what is subscription? So inside your Azure account, so you will set up an Azure account where you are going to create resources, database, application, virtual machine, back-end, front-end, correct? So if you will deploy resources, so as we are using public cloud, in public cloud there would be resource metering, so that whatever resource you will use, you will utilize, you will get a bill for that resource. Now how you will receive a bill? You should have a billing account. So to get a billing account, you will purchase a subscription, which would be your billing boundary, billing account. So only identities into Azure AD or in directory that is trusted by Azure AD, it means O365 or M365, Office 365 or Microsoft 365. They can create subscription first of all. It's a logical unit of Azure services that link to an Azure account. So whenever you will purchase a subscription linked to an Azure account. It's your security and billing boundary. So into my organization, if I have 3 departments, dev, test, production, and I need consolidated bill for all departments, for each department. So I'll purchase 3 subscriptions, 1 subscription for production, 1 for test, 1 for dev, so that I will get separate bill for dev, separate bill for test, separate bill for production. In each subscription, we have resource limitation. That means how many resources you can. There would be limitation, there would be quota limit into your subscription, which you can increase based on your agreement which you have done by Microsoft. You can create a request to Microsoft to increase your quota. But initially there would be quota on your subscription and you will be restricted to create resources, limited resources within a subscription. Whatever resource you will utilize, you will get a bill within your subscription. First. Second, it would be a security boundary. Now, how this would be my security boundary? So whenever I will create a resource, like if I'm going to create virtual machine into Azure Cloud, so virtual machine will be created under a resource group, first of all, which is a container, which we will discuss. This resource group will be created under a subscription. Subscription would be available under a Azure account. That means tenant. So top level, there will be a tenant. Under a tenant, you will get a subscription. Now inside the subscription, there would be a resource group. Inside resource group, you will get your resource. This would be your hierarchy. Correct. Now, if I'm talking about dev users, so assume we have 3 users team who would be responsible for dev resources. 3 users team who would be responsible for test. 3 user team who would be responsible for production. Correct. So what I want, whenever they will sign into my Azure account, that means tenant will be same for all users. So whenever they will sign into my tenant, they will get only dev subscription into their account. There would be multiple subscriptions. As you can see in my account, I purchased 3 subscription, dev, test, production, correct. But whenever dev user, they will sign in, they will only see only subscription. And they can only see resources which would be under dev subscription. So I can implement RBAC role-based access control, that means authorization to my users so that they can see only correct level of resources. The least privilege concept will be applied here. Correct, which I'll show you how we will do that. So subscription is your billing boundary. I hope that is clear to everyone. If you have any query, you can ask a question. If it is clear, then we will move to next slide. Let's move to next slide. Subscription uses. First of all, we will create free subscription, which we can create and which I hope you all have created subscription. In free subscription, you will get $200 credit, which you can use for 30 days. Correct? But account which you use to create this free subscription, that account would be available for 12 months. It means you can add pay-as-you-go subscription into this account as well later, once your free tier subscription will be expired. Correct? Pay-as-you-go subscription. So we can create pay-as-you-go subscription based on our utilization. We will get a monthly bill. CSP subscription. So cloud solution providers, Microsoft Cloud Solution Providers, who would be partner of Microsoft, they will provide you subscription typically for small to medium businesses where you will do agreement with them. Enterprise subscription like MSTN subscription. One agreement with discount for new licenses, soft assurance. Target will be enterprise scale organization who will do enterprise agreement with Microsoft and they will get cheaper resources and licenses, free licenses. Student, there would be university programs. So if your university is registered into Microsoft Education Program System, so you will get $100 credit for 12 months in Azure account for learning purpose. But you have to verify your student access using your university email ID. Obtaining subscription, from where we will get subscription. First, we can create enterprise agreement. So customer makes an upfront monetary commitment and consume service throughout the year. So we'll do a yearly commitment with Microsoft, agreement with Microsoft. Reseller, we can purchase subscription from reseller. Partners, so we can do with partners and they will design our applications into their cloud account. Or we can create personal free accounts straight away to test and to learn Microsoft services. Resource group. Again, whenever you will create any resource into Microsoft Azure, first you have to create a resource group under a subscription. Resource group is nothing, it's a container. It's a logical unit. It's like a container, like in your hard drive. If we are going to store something, so we will create first of all a folder in which we will store our data. Similarly in cloud, we will create a resource group which would be like a container in which we will keep our resources. So resources can only exist inside a resource group. So if you are going to deploy a resource, you have to create a resource group first, or might be you can use existing resource group. Groups can have resources from different types, services, from different reasons. What it does mean? It means I can create a database, I can create IoT services, I can create virtual network, load balancer, firewall, different types of services which I can create and store within one resource group from different regions as well, from East US, from Central India, from West US, from Central US. I can create resources which I can kept within a single resource group. So that is possible. Groups cannot be renamed or nested. So group nesting is not allowed. So within a resource group, you cannot create another resource group. Group nesting is not allowed. And you cannot rename resource group. Resource group is a free service into Microsoft Azure. You can move resources in groups. So what I can do, I can move my resource from one resource group to another resource group. That is possible. Correct. So as you can see, we have two examples. Example number one, example number two. If I'm going to deploy a three-tier application like front-end, back-end, database, storage, correct. So which I kept inside a single resource group. Next option, for front-end, there is a separate resource group. For back-end, there is a separate resource group. For database, there is a separate resource group. Which would be best practice? First or second? In which option you will get more flexibility? So first, correct. Why? Just because if I'm talking about my web application, www.xyz.com. So if I'm talking about my web application, so all resources which I deployed, all resources are connected to a single entity which is xyz.com. When it comes to policies, when it comes to RBAC rules, it would be difficult for me when I'm going to deploy my resources in different resource groups, correct? Which will be connected to a single entity. And when it comes to deprovisioning your resource into dev and test, if I'll delete my resource group, it will delete all the resources. So in single coordinated operation, you would be able to delete your resources from resource group. That's why first option will be best practice to deploy a resource. If you remember, whenever you will create a subscription, in subscription there would be service limit and quotas which would be implemented into your subscription. This would be also a reason to use multiple subscription into your account. Now from where we will get this option and how we will check our subscription quota limit. So let's go to your portal, in search bar, search subscription and click on your subscription name. And once you all will reach to your subscription console, confirm, so that I will guide you how we will reach to subscription quota limit tab. So left hand side, we need to scroll down on subscription. Under settings, you will get users plus quotas tab. where you would be able to track your users. It means if you deployed few resources and you need to check quota limit. So come to this tab where you can see we have filters. If I need resource utilization or quota for a specific reason, there is a reason filter. I can select my region. And for particular reason, you need a quota limit. If you want to check quota limit for particular resource category like network, storage, you would be able to check your limit for particular category. Like if I'm going to check for, let's assume for compute. So in compute, let me show you a limit, how many virtual machines I can create. So I can create 25,000 virtual machines. Right now, zero deployment, 0% utilization. And this would be a regional limit. So in every region, I can create 25,000 virtual machine. But it doesn't mean that I can create 25,000 virtual machine. Why? Whenever you will create a virtual machine, so you will get some compute resource, correct? Virtual CPU and RAM. So again, you have to check your virtual CPU limit as well. So as you can see, total regional spot virtual CPU, where is my total regional CPU limit, which you can see 10. So my regional CPU limit is 10. I can create 25,000 virtual machine, but my CPU limit is 10. So if I'm going to create 10 virtual machine with one virtual CPU, it means I can create maximum 10 virtual machines. If I'm using two virtual CPU in one virtual machine, if that is my configuration, I can maximum create 5 virtual machines. Correct? So it would be combination of your virtual machine and regional CPU. So from here you can use your filters, and based on filter you will get output and you can check your users plus quota. I hope this tab is clear to everyone. If you have any query, you can ask a question. Yes, Sangram.
Yeah. Into my quota over here, which is a production environment, as you already know, the standard family V CPUs are 100% utilized, 10 on 10.
Hmm.
So what would that impact like?
So 100% utilization means you are utilizing your 100% limit. Now
Hmm.
you cannot create another virtual machine.
Right.
Correct? So whenever you will
Right.
deploy a new virtual machine, you will get an error.
Limit, whatever usage and quota, can this be downloaded? Yeah, I think it is.
Yes, there is an option to
Into a
download how
CSV
much
or a spreadsheet?
CSV you can download, and you would be able to track your utilization.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
So what you can do, you can change your filters based on this filter. And as you can see, we have only 3 filters. So whatever limit I'm getting here, I'm getting based on this filter, and whatever output we are getting here, this will be dependent on these filters which we selected here. So your columns will be changed based on these filters, whatever you will select, change. Okay, let's move to next. Again on same console, subscription console. If I go to left hand side under settings tab, so you would be able to see the resource providers. So into Microsoft Azure, there would be different resource providers who are providing resources to Microsoft data center. Like in your organization, there would be a different vendor for transportation. There would be a different vendor for catering services. There would be a different vendor for electricity. Similarly, into when it comes to Microsoft, for compute resource, we have a different resource provider. For network, we have different resource provider. For storage, we have a different resource provider. So if I'm going to deploy any resource, like if I'm deploying NSG, Network Security Group, which is a networking resource, so it means there would be a resource provider who would be responsible for that. If I'm creating a virtual machine, so it means there would be a different resource provider who would be responsible for virtual machine deployment. So what happens generally into Microsoft Azure. Why we're talking about this topic here right now? Just because sometimes what happens whenever you will deploy a resource into a new Azure account, might be you will get an error. Might be, but you rarely it happens, correct? Rarely it happens, but it can happen that when you will get a error. So you have to read your error for new deployment. And whenever you will read your error into notification bar, your error will be related to, if your error will be related to resource providers. It means your resource provider is not registered into your subscription, correct? Generally what happens whenever you will try to deploy any resource provider will automatically register in background. It will automatically register. As you can see, there are few resource providers which are automatically registered in background into my subscription. So similarly, whenever you will deploy any resource, your resource provider will be registered into your subscription automatically in background. But sometimes what happens, you will get error, which rarely happens, but it can happen. So you should understand this concept from where you can enable manually. So assume Microsoft Storage, Network, Compute. Let's assume Microsoft.web. So what I can do, I can search here web. You can see there's a resource provider Microsoft.web, which is responsible for app services into Microsoft Azure. And assume I'm trying to deploy app services into my account and I'm getting an error that your resource provider is not registered into a subscription. So now what I will do, I'll come to my subscription. I'll come to this tab, resource providers, where I will search my resource provider with name. You will get your resource provider, which you can see that is not registered. You will select your resource provider and tap register. You will click on register manually. But remember one thing, by default, automatically in background, all the resource providers will be registered whenever you will deploy any resource first time into Microsoft Azure. Correct? I hope this tab is also clear to everyone. Resource providers tab. So next tab, which you can see on the subscription, is cost management. Now cost management is very important tab where you would be able to see your cost analysis. Correct. And to show cost analysis, let me switch a different account. Let me switch a different account so that I can show you. We can only see cost analysis into a enterprise or production subscription. In free tier or into Azure Pass sponsorship, you cannot check cost analysis just because that is a subsidiary subscription. Those subscriptions are a subsidiary subscription for Microsoft, where you will not get any cost analysis just because you have some credit limit. Let me show you in my enterprise subscription, which you can see MSTN. Let me open this subscription. Left hand side, if I'll go to cost analysis tab. So let me go to cost analysis, where you would be able to see my utilization for this month. So on cost analysis, we would be able to check our billing. So as you can see, 6 rupees, which is my current utilization. I'm using different accounts, Azure account for my trainings. Correct. So for this account till now, 6 rupees. For 40 rupees. I have a budget for my account, where if you want, you can see filters we have here. So based on filter also I can check bill. Like I can use a filter, reservation, if I reserve any instances, resources, resource type, service name, and tag. Location wise filter I can check. So I would be able to see my bill based on the location wise, in which location I deployed my resources, and I get a bill. Let me change my billing period to last 3 invoices, which you can see 16,000 rupees for this account. And now if you'll see here, I paid for event grid service, where my filter is service name, storage, virtual machine, Azure app services, virtual network, IoT services, Reason, event grid unknown, Central India, US West, US West 2, service resource group name. These are my resource group name for which I charge. Yes, Sangram.
Sorry to get again.
No worries.
How about the changing of the scope to actual and amortized for this cost?
Pardon? This scope.
Changing of the scope for the cost. Under save, you see the scope. Now under that is 16,000. It is the actual cost. How about the amortized one? What does it signify?
So it will break your reservation purchase. Reservation means if you purchase any reserved instances. This cost is basically for complete your subscription, complete subscription cost. But what if we have on-demand and reserved instances both? And you need a cost for reserved instances only.
Right.
Then you have to change your scope to amortized cost. And you would be able to see that.
I usually go for the amortized one. Because I have
just because might be you purchase reserve instances.
Yeah, that is right.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And one more thing I wanted to ask, a quick question now. How much is the Azure Stack SCI going to save on the cost?
Again, when it comes to costing part, just because pricing will be different based on the agreement with Microsoft, correct? So my agreement is different, your agreement is different. So pricing, quota limit, that will be different. So we can use TCO as your total cost, as your calculator, sorry. As your pricing calculator. So you can use as your pricing calculator and you would be able to see estimated cost, correct? And based on this estimated cost, you can negotiate with Microsoft. Like you are going to Microsoft that I'm going to purchase your subscription for 1 year, for 2 years, for 3 years. And based on your commitment, you would be able to negotiate with Microsoft on that estimated cost.
Right.
Correct.
A POC has been scheduled from 20th of November till, for the next 2 weeks after that. So where I'm going to explore Azure Stack SCI, creating certain virtual machines, a test environment is being created for that purpose so that we can explore. It is a new addition now for us. So we are going to get rid of Morpheus data. You know about Morpheus data, where we deploy machines. Now Morpheus is totally free, but there would be on-premise server creations on Azure Stack SCI. Hope we will be still in this session even by 20th of November. I'm not sure which day it is going to end, but if I get something to do, I'll update you what exactly I'm doing then.
Sure. So no worries.
Yep. No worries. Thank you.
Welcome. Let me share this link in the chat box for Azure pricing calculator, where you can see you will get categories of resources which you can add and you will get an estimated cost. Now this would be an estimated cost only, which you will get on Azure pricing calculator. Now based on your agreement, you can do a negotiation with Microsoft. So now again, when it comes to pricing, what I can do, I can create a budget. Like if I'm in dev and test subscription, so and I can only spend 4,000 rupees for my dev environment, correct? So what I can do, I can create a limit here, which is known as budget. I can create a budget here. So how you will create budget? Let me show you from left hand side on your subscription. If you are using free tier account, then you cannot create budget. So let me show you. I already have one budget here. Let me delete budget first. So now there's no budget. So left hand side under cost management, you will get budgets tab. Click on add budget. Budget name will be anything I'm going to give here, Sanjay. Where you can see you will get some data here, which will be provided by Microsoft, just because Microsoft is using machine learning algorithm. So last month bill, maximum past 7-month bill, and maximum monthly forecast based on my current utilization. So based on that, you can create a budget. So billing period, monthly, you can create your budget start date, end date. You can set your recurrence, which would be monthly, quarterly, yearly. Let me scroll down here and let me provide my budget amount here, which would be 5,000 in my case. But my forecast is 300 rupees. No worries. Next, alert. That means threshold. So if you will reach to your budget amount or whatever threshold you will set up here, whenever you will reach to your threshold amount, so you will receive a email from Microsoft that you reached to your budget amount. So alert condition, actual or forecasted. I'm going with actual. What would percentage? So actual budget amount is 5,000 rupees. If I will utilize 80% of my budget amount, it means 4,000 rupees. Then do one thing, send an email where you can type your email ID here or your billing manager email ID who would be responsible for billing. Correct. So when I will reach to 4,000 rupees, I will receive an email from Microsoft that you crossed your budget amount. Correct. That's how you can create a budget, and you will receive a notification from Microsoft. Remember, you will only get a notification.
A quick question again.
Hmm.
This is a service, so this again should be chargeable, right?
This budget service.
Budget
If
service.
I will, yeah. So what I will do, if I'm going to use any action group here, if you'll see here into alert condition, there's no action group used. If I will use action group, there would be charges. Otherwise, it's free.
Right. So it will be chargeable for me. I don't have any budget configured.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. I hope this part is also clear to everyone. Post analysis part.
Yeah.
Let's move to next. Create a Azure resource hierarchy. So which will start after a short break. So let's take a short break and we will resume our session after 15 minutes. And then we will discuss about this part, which would be very important and very interesting part in respect to administration or security or when it comes to governance. Next topic, Azure resource hierarchy. So when it comes to an enterprise organization where we have multiple subscriptions, like if I will purchase multiple subscriptions for my organization is enterprise or corporate organization. So it would be difficult for all of us to manage our policies and permissions, role-based access control. Why? Just because when I'll go to my account, if I will set subscription, I would be able to see my all subscriptions which I purchase here only. Correct? So we need to assume, let's assume into my organization I have 10 subscriptions. So whenever I will search subscription service into my account, it will list all 10 subscriptions here. Now how I would know which subscription I'm using for which department? Why? Just because when it comes to policies, permissions, so scoping will come in picture. And scope, top level scope would be subscription. Why? Just because whenever you will create any resource will be created under a subscription under a resource group. So top level scope will be subscription, under subscription you will get resource group, and under resource group you will get your resources which you created. So first scope, subscription, second resource group, third resource level. I can apply permission. First option. Second option, if I have multiple subscriptions which I'm using for different departments, which you can see here, like HR, in IT we have two regions. It means I have clients into two different regions. And when I have two clients in two different regions, it means there would be different teams who would be responsible for managing their resource deployment, as well as when it comes to compliance policies. So for region 1, there would be different compliance policy. For region 2, there would be different compliance policy based on the geography. Correct? And I need to ensure that whatever policy I'm creating, associating, applying, so it should apply applied at correct level just because into your account all subscriptions will be listed here. First, all subscriptions will be listed here. It would be difficult for me to identify my subscription which I'm using for dev department, which I'm using for prod, which I'm using for logistic. It would be difficult for me to identify. Second, if I'll go to 3 tiles left hand side, there's tab all resources. So here I would be able to see all the resources from different subscriptions in different region, different resource group. It will list all the resources. Again, it would be difficult for me to identify which resource group and which resource is related to dev department. Correct? So what we can do, we have a service into Microsoft Azure that is known as management group. And using management group would be able to design your organization hierarchy. Again, you have to design. So you would be able to design your organization hierarchy so that you will get a hierarchical view of your organization. And you can easily pick your scope where you can apply policy and you can allow your users to access resources. If I'm going to apply any policy at this level, it will automatically inherit to down level resources and departments. So inheritance will be there by default. So I have to pick a correct scope. That's why we are using management group. Using 1 or 2 subscription, there is no meaning of management group. Remember, if I'm using single subscription, there is no meaning of management group. That's because if I am using single or 1 or 2 or 3 subscription, maximum 3 subscriptions, I can remember first subscription I'm using for devs, second I'm using for prod, third I'm using for logistics. I can remember 3 subscription and 3 departments. But when it comes to more than 5 subscriptions into your organization, it would be difficult for you to remember. In that case, you will create management group. So management group which provides a level of scope above the subscription. So above the subscription, you will get a scope which is known as management group. Target policies where you can apply your policies, spend budget across subscriptions, inheritance down the hierarchies. So whatever policy permissions you are going to apply, scope, it will be inherited. So you need to be careful. Might be I have to allow my users at this level. So if I created management group, I would be able to directly pick this scope and I can apply my permission and policy at this level only. Implement compliance and cost reporting. We would be able to do cost reporting, compliance reporting by organization, by team, by department wise. You will get up to 6 levels of depth. It means under a department, I can create up to 6 sub-departments. That is called management group service. Again, as we all have single subscription into our account, there would be no meaning, but let me show you from where you can configure, just because when it comes to production environment or our organization where we have multiple subscriptions, enterprise organizations, we will definitely set up our organization first. Let me show you how you will set up. So go to your account in search bar, search management groups, select management groups. As you can see, previously I configured few groups. Let me delete and let me show you from scratch. So whenever you will go to management groups tab, by default you will get a tenant root group. Tenant root group is your basically organization, main organization. That is known as tenant root group. Under tenant root group, if you will purchase subscription or if you will add subscription for your organization, so by default all subscriptions will be added under tenant root group. Remember this. So you will get a tenant root group which will represent your organization. Under your organization,
sorry,
yes,
from starting from the search bar from where you have started this.
So search what? You will search management group.
Okay.
You can see we have a service management groups. If you are not able to see tenant root group, it means it is not created. You're using first time, correct? So you need to click on create. So first it will create tenant root group. Create and let me know once you all will done with this. Hope you all are done with this. So under tenant root group is basically your organization. Under your organization, if you will purchase 5, 10, 15 subscriptions, all subscriptions will be listed here by default. Now assume I have to create my departments under my organization. So I will click on create. My department name, prod, that means production. Display name, prod. Next department, dev. Next department, test. So as you can see, I created 3 departments, production, dev, test. If I have to create sub-departments under a department, I will open that department. Like I'm going to open prod. So I will click on prod, prod will be open. And under prod, I'm going to click on create. I'm going to create sub-department. So sub-department, like I'm going to create a department for India, for my Indian client. Next, US, for US client. So it means I have 2 clients into production, correct? And which I added here under production, which you can see under production. Now I have India and US. If I have to manage India, I will click on India and I will be redirected to Indian. Let me show you. If I'll expand prod, I will able to see here my both departments, sub-departments, regional. I will click on my Indian department and I will be redirected to Indian department. Now you have to associate. One second. Yeah. Please hold on. Let me finish first of all my topic. So in Indian department now, just because we have our all subscription at tenant root level, and just because you are designing your hierarchy, your organization, so first you have to give a subscription to Indian, which you purchase for Indian client. So here you can see there's a tab add subscription. You will click on add subscription. It will list all the subscription at tenant level, which you can see here. Right now I have only one subscription, so I can only show you one subscription. So you will select your subscription which you purchased for Indian client, correct? Then click on save. This subscription will be now moved from tenant root group to Indian department. Let me show you once again. So now I'm going back to my management group. As you can see, tenant root group, there's no subscription available on tenant root group. Just because I moved that subscription under production under India, this subscription, correct? If I'll open this India, it means I'm inside Indian department. Now if I have to create any policy, compliance policy for Indian clients, so left hand side you can see there's a tab policy. I will create policy here. How you will create policy, you will understand. I'll show you practically, separately. We have a lesson for policy. If I have to authorize users to manage this subscription and to manage this department, Indian department, there is a tab left hand side, access control, IAM, identity and access management, correct? I'll go to this tab and I will authorize my users to manage resources under this department and under this subscription. So that's how you can manage your hierarchy. Now you can ask your question.
Yeah, how about the display name and the ID for this management group when we create it? Should it be, I mean, what differentiation we can have into that? Or it can be the same as well?
It can be
Like
same, it can be different as well. It
right.
depends. Basically, as you can see, like display name for subscription is different, and there's a subscription ID. There's a tenant
Yeah, but
root
when
group.
you went to create it, you put in IN and US and US.
Correct, correct. But totally up to me now. How
All right.
I'm
Yeah.
representing my organization, it depends on me basically.
Right.
So if you want, you can represent some code like reason code. So my display name, my department name is India. I can use some reason code like 91 as
Okay.
display
And
code.
how does that number appear under ID for tenant root group?
So that is your tenant ID. So let me open a duplicate tab. If you remember Microsoft Entra ID, so for each Entra, there would be some tenant ID, unique tenant ID, which will be
You have to
provided by
copy it.
Microsoft to you. No need to copy. It will automatically appear here.
Okay.
Let me go to Entra ID. If you will check my Entra ID, that is same.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Correct?
Right. Thanks. Yeah.
So whenever you will set up your management group, it will first of all create a tenant root group. Tenant root group means your tenant, and you will get your tenant ID here.
Right. Yeah. Thanks.
Welcome. Anyone else who have any query, you can ask your query, the question. As I hope this topic is clear to everyone. What is management group and use of management group?
I have a question about the subscription. Before you create those groups, dev, prod, and test, you have the subscription under the tenant root group, right?
Correct.
Now it's under India. Like I lost you know, how you got the subscription to
So
India.
how many departments you created first? Let me know.
No, from what I see, I was trying to follow you. I created 2 so far, and but I have not moved my subscription. But I'm just wondering why the subscription moved from tenant root group to India on your case.
Let me show you once again how I did this.
Okay.
So now, as you can see, my subscription is under tenant root group.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
So what happens, Eka, whenever you will purchase subscription for your organization, this tenant root group means you're talking about your organization. Correct.
Okay.
Your domain, tenant. Okay. So by default, all subscriptions will be added under this tenant root group by default.
Okay.
Now I create departments. It means under department there would be resources. And how I will create resource? Just because to create resource I need subscription. So I have to associate subscription to add department. So how we will map? You will open any department. Like I'm going to open this prod department. So you need to click on your department name. It will be open. As you can see, prod is open. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
But there's no subscription under prod till now. So what we will do? We will move a subscription from tenant to prod. How? In center you can see there is a tab add subscription.
Okay.
Follow my cursor. So you will click on add subscription. It will list all the subscriptions, available subscriptions in tenant root group. So you have to select one subscription. I have only one. So I have one choice only here. But might be in your case, in your organization, there would be multiple subscriptions. So you will select one subscription, which you purchase for product department. And then you click on save. Okay. And your subscription will move from tenant root group to prod. As you can see now, subscription is moved. If I'll go back, let me refresh. You can see now there's no subscription under tenant. I have subscription under prod.
So can you have subscription under dev as well and under test, the same one, the same subscription?
One subscription I can move only into one department. If I have to move subscription into test, so first I need to, if I have only one subscription, then I need to move the subscription first of all to a tenant root group, back, and then to test. Otherwise, I have to purchase new subscription.
Okay, that's where I was confused. Okay, I got you now. All right.
It's only one-to-one mapping. Hope that is clear. So what is tagging now? So tagging is also very important into Azure when it comes to deployment. If we are deploying resources and later we need to audit those resources, later we need to generate some report for production resources, for dev and test resources, for logistic report resources, or we need to check bill. Let's assume I'm using single subscription into my organization. I'm a small organization. I'm working into a small organization where we have only one subscription, and to isolate our departments, we created resource group. So we created dev resource group, test resource group, and prod resource group, just because we have only one subscription. And under those resource group, we have resources. Now what I want, I have to list all the resources which I deployed under prod, and I need billing information for those resources. Now how I will get a bill for resources which would be under production resource group? It would be difficult for me just because I'm using single subscription, and subscription is basically a billing boundary. So what we can do, we can use tags. So before going to deploy a resource, you will associate a tag to your resource. Tag is simply a metadata which will describe your resource. So it's a key and value pair, metadata which you will associate to your resource so that later you would be able to identify your resource. Like you can see here few examples. Honor. So tag is a key and value. So there would be some key and there would be some value, or you can say name and value pair, key and value pair. So like key and value or name and value. So name means like honor, who is honor. So that is known as name. There would be some value which would be Joe. So name and value. Similarly, department, name, value, marketing. Environment, name, value, production. So I can associate more than one tags to my resources so that later I can list my resources which would be in production environment using this tag. So I will use this tag, name, environment, and value production. If I'll use this tag, it will list all the resources which would be under production environment, and I can easily check my bill. If you remember, on your subscription under cost analysis tab, there's a filter where we can use tags as well as a filter. So as you can see, we have three filters here. I can click on any filter, and as you can see, there is an option, last option, tag. So I can use tag as well here. Using tag, I have to provide tag name, and it will list all the resource utilization for that particular tag resources. So it would be easy for you to get bill for resources if you're using single subscription into your organization. Correct? I hope this part is clear to everyone. If you have any query, you can ask a question. Any query from your side?
Will the ownership also be tagged over there?
Yes, we can tag for ownership as well.
Yeah.
There could be multiple owners as well into our organization subscription. Who would be responsible for deploying resources, correct?
Right.
So what we can do, we can create a policy in which they have to provide owner name always.
Yeah. Because most of the times I've seen, sorry, go ahead.
So it means if I have to audit resources which are created by Joe, which are created by Sangram, so I can use that tag, honor tag, and I would be able to list those resources.
Okay. But I've seen that most of my machines or resources do not have any tags of the owners actually. So how can we list them? Yeah.
So again, tags are optional. First of all, Sangram, tags are optional in deployment, correct? So sometimes what happens, while deploying our resources, we skip that option. Applying tags.
Most times.
Of the time, correct? So what you can do, you can create a policy so that your user have to provide tag, otherwise deployment will be failed.
Right. And how is that done?
I'll show you
Okay.
in next lesson, correct?
Yeah. That's important to know, because most of the times when I see the cost analysis, when I'm doing it, I don't have the owner details, so cannot be notified to them.
So you can create tag. You can create tag for that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll show you
Let
how.
me know how the policy will be done next time.
Definitely. I'll show you in next lesson.
Yeah. That will be crucial actually. Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome. So managing cost. When it comes to managing cost, so we have billing account where if I'm creating management group, so there would be departments, under departments, there would be resources subscriptions, under subscriptions, there would be resources. So cost are resource specific. So whatever resource you will deploy, cost will be based on your deployment. Users cost may vary between location. So for different location, there would be different hardware and there would be different services in different location, and pricing will be different in different location. So cost for inbound and outbound data transfer will be differ. Prepay with Azure reserve instances. It means if I have long-term commitment, like I'm going to deploy an application and I know this application I'm going to deploy for 1 year or for 3 years. It's a long-term deployment. So rather than going with on-demand, now what is on-demand? On-demand means which is the highest pricing model into Microsoft Azure. And it's also known as shared model, shared tenancy. So we are using shared tenancy in which we are going to use pay-as-you-go, that is known as on-demand. Pay-as-you-go is known as on-demand pricing model, the highest chargeable pricing model. If I can predict, that means if I have a stateless kind of workload where I can predict my utilization, like I'm going to do virtual CPU and 4 GB RAM, and that is sufficient for my workload if I can predict this. So I will reserve this compute resource either for 1 year or for 3 years, where I will get discount from Microsoft up to 72%. Up to 72% discount you will get as compared to pay-as-you-go or on-demand. Correct? That is called discount. So prepaying, you can reserve instances where there would be upfront investment, and after then you will get some bill. Up to 72% based on your selection, 1 year, 3 year, and hybrid benefit also we can use. So use your on-premise licenses, which is known as hybrid benefit. If I already have bulk OEM licenses, which I purchase for my data center, for Windows Server, Windows Client, SQL database, so licenses I can bring to Azure Cloud as well. Just because licensing price will be included into Azure pricing for any resource, just because Microsoft will give you license resource as per the compliance, and license cost will be included into that. So what we can do, if we already have license, we can bring our license into cloud, and we will get hybrid benefit where you will get up to 49% discount from Microsoft if you will bring your license for Microsoft products. Remember, for Microsoft products only. Optimize with alerts. So you can set up alert. How? If you remember, we created a budget in which we provided a threshold and an email ID where you will receive an alert. Hope this part is also clear to everyone. We are done with lesson number 1. If you have any query related to lesson number 1, you can ask your question. Otherwise, we are going to start next lesson, which would be last lesson for this module, configuring Azure Policy. Configuring Azure Policy. So let's start this lesson. When it comes to enforcing compliance requirement, where you have to enforce your policies, and you need to ensure that whatever deployment you are doing, this will be all deployments would be compliant. Your resources are compliant, so that whenever you will audit, you will get a compliant resource report. So how we can ensure? In that case, we have to create policies based on the some regulatory compliances, or if I have some custom requirement, I will create policy. So into Azure, we have a service which is known as Azure Policies, where you would be able to create policies. Now, what would be use cases? As you can see, there are a few use cases. Allowed resource type. What it does mean by allowed resource type? So allowed resource type means this would be my subscription. Assume under my subscription, I have a resource group where I have resources. And now the subscription is under a tenant. And I have two users, user 1, user 2, which I created on my tenant level. So user 1, who is owner of this resource group. When I'm saying owner at any scope level, so resource group is basically scope for user. And if I'm saying user 1 is owner of this scope, this resource group, it means user 1 can perform any action. Any action. User 1 can perform any action. So he can create, update, modify, delete, or he can delegate other users as well, just because he's the owner. So user 1 who is the owner, it means he can create any type, any kind, and in any reason resources under this resource scope. Now what I want, without limiting my user permission, I want he can create specific type of resources only. He can only create this resource, like virtual machine, he can only create virtual machine, database, or any other resource. So if you want to limit resource type for a user, in that case you have to create a policy. Rather than limiting user permission, just because we cannot limit user permission. When it comes to permissions, so we have read, write, delete, this type of permissions. And when you have this kind of requirement, it means you cannot fulfill this requirement under RBAC, role-based access control. You have to create policy. So you will create a policy. Allowed virtual machine SKUs. What it does mean? It means virtual machine SKUs means size, store keeping unit, size. Sizes means when you will select a virtual machine, there would be different sizes which would be available in terms of hardware, compute resource. So what I want, just because user 1 is owner, so he can create virtual machine, he can create any type virtual machine, Windows, Linux. In Linux, he can use different distributions, and he can pick any size. He can pick 1 virtual CPU, he can pick 2 virtual CPU, 16 virtual CPU, 10 virtual CPU, totally up to him. What I want, he can only create 1 virtual CPU and 3.5 GB RAM virtual machine SKU. He can. So I am going to restrict my user to choose or to pick only this size always. Even he is owner, I will create a policy for this. Correct? Allowed location. If user 1 is owner, it means he can create resource any type, any size, any reason. Just because I have regulatory compliance with state, I have to deploy resources within the region only. So I have to restrict my users. They can deploy resources under my region, Central India, East US, West US, correct? So I will create a policy for that. Require a tag and its values. So whenever my users who would be responsible for deploying resources, if they are deploying resources, they should provide tag to resources. If they are not providing tag, just because tags are optional, the deployment will be failed. Azure backup should be enabled for virtual machines. As per compliance, backup should be enabled for Azure virtual machines. Now, just because by default backup will be not enabled for Azure virtual machines, so we can create policy for that. So user has to enable backup first, otherwise deployment will be failed. So these are the examples of policies, use cases of policies. Policy is a service which you will create first, then you will assign and manage policy. Once you will create a policy and assign a policy, it will run an evaluation and it will scan your non-compliant resources. So it means whenever you will create and associate a policy, It will run an evaluation which can take up to 15 minutes to evaluate your resources. And you will get a report, evaluation report, in which you will get compliant and non-compliant resources. And non-compliant resources you can remediate as per your policy. Advantage, enforcement and compliance. Apply policy at scale. Remediation for non-compliant resources. So how we will attach a policy, how policy works, I'm going to show you practically, and I would request all of you to test this lab along with me so that you all can understand policies into Azure. So confirm in the chat box if you are going to perform lab along with me. So only Ashwini is going to perform lab along with me. If you are going to perform lab along with me, confirm in the chat box so that I can slow down my pace and you all would be able to follow your steps, and I can remember who are performing lab along with me, correct? So that I can cross check. Let's move to your portal. In search bar, you have to search policy. Go to portal, search policy. You all will be redirected to policy console. So once you will reach to policy console, confirm. Once you all will reach to policy console, confirm. Next, left hand side, you will get compliance tab where you would be able to see your policy evaluation, where you can see compliant and non-compliant section, correct? Right now there's no policy, so you will not get any insights here. No worries. Left hand side you can see there's a tab authoring, and under authoring we have definitions, correct? Select definitions tab and confirm. Once you all will reach to definitions tab. Left hand side under authoring you will get definitions tab. Select definitions tab and confirm. Once you all will reach to definitions tab. On definition tab you can see we have two tabs, policy definition and initiative definition. So by default you will get here built-in policies. Policies which are created by Microsoft, correct? And all policies are written into JSON. If you have knowledge of JSON and where you have some granular requirement, you can create your custom policy as well, correct? So what would be difference between policy definition and initiative definition? Policy definition means we're talking about single policy. Policy definition means we're talking about single policy. And initiative definition means we're talking about group of policies. What it does mean by group of policies? So as you can see this slide here, let me explain first of all here. So assume I have a resource group scope where I can associate policy, and I need to associate 3 policy to this resource scope. That is, which is my scope. First policy is location based, second is tag based, third is resource based. So the 3 policy which I need to scope to this resource group. I can create policy definition, that is individual policies, and individually I can associate one by one those policies to my resource group. But there would be chances of error. Might be by mistake I will select any other scope, which is possible. So what we can do, if we have more than one policies which we have to associate to same scope, we will create a group, and this group is known as policy initiative. This group is known as policy initiative, in which you will add your all policies, correct? And then this group you will associate to your scope. All policies will be applied at a single coordinated operation action, correct? That is the difference between initiative definition and policy definition. So first we will test initiative definition. Second, I will show you how we will test, first we will test policy definition. Second, we will test initiative definition. So how we will test policy definition? All policies are initiative policies and policy definition, which you can see here. So do one thing, there is a filter definition type, which you can see. Select policy definition. Select policy definition from filter, and it will list all the individual policies, which you can see here. So use first of all a filter, which would be policy type, definition type, and that is policy, correct? I hope you all are done with this. Hope you all are done with this task. Next, if you know that you are going to create a policy for a resource, and your resource comes under into which category, then you can use filter. As you can see here, category filters. You can click on it and it will list all the categories. I can choose my category here. Like I am going to create a policy for tags. So what I will do, I will go to category tab. I will remove check from all first, and then I will search tag. And you can see there's a category tags. I will select tags and click on apply. It will list all the policies related to tags. First option will be this. If I know in which category my policy will be available, correct? I will use category filter, and it will list all the policies related to tags. I hope you all are done with this task also, where you selected your category filter as tag. Hope you all are performing lab along with me. If you're stuck on any step, let me know. Next, here you can see I'm going to select one policy, which would be require a tag and its value on resources. Require a tag and a value on resources. There would be two policies, resources and resource groups, remember. So as you can see this policy, follow my cursor, last policy, require a tag and its value on resources. So you will get two similar type of policies, resources and resource group, both are different, correct? So we are going to select here require a tag and its values on resources. Click on this policy, policy will be open. And read your name once again. Policy name, it should be same. Require a tag and its value on resources. Hope you all opened your policy. Confirm, so that we can apply this policy. I hope you all are done till here. Confirm. Okay. Then there is a tab assign. Before going to assign this policy, I'm going to create a scope first. Correct? To do one thing, right click on your browser tab and open duplicate tab. Open duplicate tab. And in duplicate tab, search resource group. Search resource groups. And click on create resource group. And create a new resource group, a container. Create a new container. So as you can see, while creating new resource group, by default, it will pick a subscription. So as I have only one subscription, it will pick by default my default subscription, MSTN. If there would be multiple subscriptions, so you choose your subscription from drop-down in which you are going to create your resource group. Right now, I have only one subscription. You all have one subscription. So it will automatically pick your subscription. Resource group name, I'm going to give here RG1, resource group 1. You can give any name, totally up to you, but should be meaningful. Reason, in which region you are going to create your resource group. I'm going to choose my region, Central India. You can choose your nearest region. Then next, tags, as you can see, next tab is tags, and tags are optional. I'm not going to provide tag to my resource group, review and create. So whenever you will click on review, it will validate your configuration and validation will be pass. If validation is passed, you can create a resource group. And I'm done with resource group creation. I hope you all are done with resource group deployment. To test policy, we have to create first of all a resource group, which we use as a scope where we will apply our policy. Hope you all are done with this. Now I'm going back to my previous tab, my policy tab. And I'm going to click on assign. Left hand side, under your policy, you will get assign tab. Click on assign and you will be redirected to assign tab, where you can see you have to select your scope where you can assign this policy. There are 3 dots right hand side on scope box. Click on it. It will list your scope where you can see you will get management groups if you have. So you will get all management groups. You can choose your management group as well as a scope. You will get your subscription tab. Under subscription, you will get resource groups as well. So let me select my subscription as scope, and under subscription, let me choose my resource group as my scope. Correct? So right hand side, you can see you will get a pop-up where you have to choose your scope. So I'm going to choose my resource group as my scope, which would be under the subscription. And then click on select. This would be my scope. If you want to exclude any resource or service from this policy, you can add under exclusion, which I'm not going to do right now. Scroll down. You can write a description, a valid description, so that you can justify the policy. Policy enforcement, which is by default enabled. So it means policy will be enabled. If you want, initially you can disable it and later you can enable it. Correct? But I'm going to use this policy right now. Assigned by. So by default, you will get your username here who is currently logged into your account. Next, advanced tab. So on advanced tab, you would be able to configure resource selector, which is in beta right now, where we can select our resource types, resource providers. Correct? Which I'm not going to do right now. Let's go to next parameters tab. So based on your policy, you can define your parameters. And Sangram, here you can define your parameter like honor is my tag name, value. So I know inside this resource group, honor would be Sanjay for all resource deployment. So I will create a tag policy here. Correct? The tag name will be honor and value will be Sanjay. Or I can create a for tag parameters here, which would be company Cognitia. So I can pre-configure my parameters here, or you can remove this option. Correct. So parameters will be provided by user. I'm going with predefined parameters here, company, and value will be Cognitia. Next, remediation. There is no remediation required just because we are predefining our parameters for policy. Non-compliance message. So that is optional, but again you can type a non-compliance message here, like use tag name company and value Cognitia. Then next, review your policy and click on create. Policy will be created. A policy is created. Go back to policy tab, and how I would know how many policies we created and we associated to different scopes. So left hand side on policy, you will get assignments tab under authoring. Under assignment, you have to refresh. You will get this one policy that is assigned to this scope. Policy type is individual policy. Policy definition. Correct? If you will go to compliance tab, so it will run evaluation and you will get evaluation report here, which is not started as you can see. It can take up to 15 minutes maximum. And you will get your compliance report here, non-compliant resources and compliant resources. Correct? How we will test this policy. So before going to test this policy, I hope you all have created your policy. So first confirm, or if anyone who's stuck on any step, let me know. I'll help you to complete your lab. Otherwise, you're going to test this policy. So confirm if you all are done with policy creation. Now go to your duplicate tab, and to test this policy, we are going to create a resource. Which resource? Again, whatever resource we are going to create, resource is not our objective right now. Our objective policy testing. Correct? So search route table. Search route table from search bar, and you will get a service here, route table. Correct? Select route tables. Now what is route table? We will discuss in different module. That is not our objective right now. Search route table, select route table, click on create route table. To create route table, either you will create a new resource group or you will use existing resource group. If I'm using existing resource group RG1, then there is a policy. If I'm creating this route table in a different resource group or into a new resource group, there is no policy. Correct? So first we will check within our existing resource group. So select RG1 from resource group drop down which you created. Reason, you can select any reason. Route table name, you can give any name. I'm going to give here RT1, route table 1. Then next go to tags tab. Now there's a policy on resource group 1 which states that you have to provide a tag to your resource which you are deploying under this resource group. But just because tags are optional, I forget to apply tag. So let me click on review and create, and let's wait for validation. So it will validate your resource. Sometime validation will be passed, or might be few users who will get error while validating their resources. the resource deployment. So let me know if your validation is passed or failed. Confirm. As you can see, for me, my validation is passed. So passing validation doesn't mean that you can create this resource without tag. No. Whenever you will deploy a resource, first it will check your policy. It will evaluate your policy at the deployment time. If I will deploy this resource after 2 or 3 minutes or after refresh, I will get validation fail. Do we have any user who is getting validation fail? Or all of you are getting validation pass? Confirm.
I'm trying into my Visual Studio subscription, which is a free one. Let me see what happens.
Okay. Okay, no worries. So it doesn't matter if my validation fails here or at deployment time. Doesn't matter just because we have a policy here. Let me show you. So if I'm trying to create this resource, let me click on create. My deployment will be failed. Why? Just because there's a policy. This is a compliance policy. As you can see, deployment failed. You need to read your error, which you can see. Let me click on it. So resource RT1 was disallowed by a policy. Which policy require a tag and its values on resources. The reason there is a non-compliance message, use tag name, company and value cognitia. Correct? So if I'm not going to provide this tag name and value, same tag name, same value, till then my resource deployment will be failed. Let me show you once again. I'm going back to route tables tab. Let me click on create route table, existing resource group, RT1, route table name, next, tags tab. So tag name, company, value cognitia, review, validation will be passed. If I'll click on create, deployment will be start and it will be done successfully. As you can see, deployment is done successfully without any error, just because I'm following my compliance policy. Hope this part is clear to everyone. If you have any query, you can ask a question.
In the exclusions, what exactly are we supposed to select? Just a quick question once again.
No need to select right now anything, but yes, you can select any service or resource which you want to exclude from your policy.
Like the SaaS model.
Any SaaS model
inside.
or any virtual machine, any database,
Okay.
any resource, any service
I
from Azure.
get server farms, then I get smart detector alert rules and components and websites. 4 things I see.
Sorry.
I see what I can exclude actually. It says optionally choose a resource which contains server farms.
Correct. So
Then
if
smart
you have
detector
a
alert
server
rules.
farm,
Yeah.
applications which you want to exclude, where you don't want to associate tag, so you will add into exclusion so that this policy will not apply to those resources.
Right.
And those resources will not come under into non-compliant section whenever you will audit your resource.
Okay. Auditing comes later after this?
So yes, as you can see, it will take time.
Okay. No worries.
Next, what about others? I hope this part is clear to everyone. So if you have any query, you can ask a question. If it is clear, then we are going to test next policy initiative definition, that is group of policies. Now, if you have to delete your policy, how you will delete? So you will go to policies tab. Left hand side, you will go to assignments tab. under assignment, you would be able to see all the assignments. So right hand side, your policy assignment, you will get 3 dots, eclipse, click on it. And here you will get option to delete your assignment. Click on delete assignment and this policy will be deleted from your scope. And now there's no policy on my resource group. That's how we can delete policy. If we have to create group of policies, let me show you how we will do that. So again, I will go back to definitions tab. As I'm not getting any confirmation from your side that you are performing lab along with me, so it would be difficult for me to understand who are performing lab along with me. If you're performing, confirm. Now under definitions, there is initiative definition. So first we will create a group, and after creating group, we will assign this group to a scope. Correct? So we will click on add initiative definition first, where you are creating this group at what level. So I'm creating on my subscription level. This would be my scope where I'm creating this group. Then name. Name, I'm going to give here demo. You can give any name. Description, again, justification. Category, if you are going to create a policy for compute resource, for storage, for network, you can choose existing category, where you can see existing category. Or if you are creating a policy which doesn't come into any category, you can create your own category as well. Like I'm going to create my category, Sanjay Demo. Correct, so in which I will add my policies. So first tab, basic tab, where you will select your scope in which your policy will be created, your group will be created, then group name, initiative, name, and then category. Then next. On next tab, you will add your all policies which you want to add inside this group. Let me show you. Add policy definition. It will list all the policy definitions here. First, I'm going to search tags. So as you can see, there's a policy require a tag and its value on resources, which I previously used. Let me select this policy. Let me add another policy, location. So there's a policy allowed location. Let me select this policy, add this policy. Then add third policy, SKU, virtual machine SKU. As you can see, there's a policy, allowed virtual machine size SKUs. So I selected 3 policies here. Let me click on next now. What I can do, I can create groups and I can define my parameters as per the group wise, which I'm not going to do right now. Groups help you to organize your policy within an initiative. It means inside this initiative definition, I can create again group, subgroups in which I can add my policies and I can provide parameters, which I'm not going to do right now. We can leave, that is optional. Initiative parameters. So once you will create group, so you can provide initiative parameters here, which I'm not going to do right now just because we do not have any group. Let me go to next tab, parameters tab, where individually I'm going to provide parameters to my policies. So first require a tag. So tag name parameter. Tag name parameter will be again company, value, Cognitia. Allowed location, I'm going to allow 2 location, East US and Central India for my deployments. So I'm going to allow 2 locations for my deployment. Then allowed virtual machine size. As you can see, these are the sizes for virtual machines. And based on the size, you will get your compute resource. That means your hardware configuration. Let me start here, DS1. So you will get one size here, standard underscore DS1 V2 virtual machine. You can pick any size just because right now we don't know anything about virtual machine size. So you can choose any size and that size will be available for you while deploying your virtual machine. So I'm going to select here standard DS1 underscore V2 virtual machine size. And I can only deploy this size of virtual machine if this policy will be applied to my scope. Then next, create, this initiative definition will be created. Now we have to apply this initiative definition. That means group we created with parameters. Now we have to scope this group to our resource group or to subscription or to management group. So there's a tab assign initiative definition. Assign initiative in which we have 3 policies. Click on assign. And you have to choose your scope. So 3 dots, choose your resource group, which would be your scope under this subscription MSTN, where this policy will be applied. And other options I'm going to leave as it is just because we already configured inside our group. We already configured all tabs. So let me click on review and create. Now this policy is scoped to my resource group 1, and I'm going to show you practically one by one. Let me go back to duplicate tab. Let me search first of all route table, where we are going to test 2 policies, tag and location using route table. So let me click on create route table. Existing resource group RG1, where we have policy, route table name RT2. In allowed location, Central India is allowed location for me, and East US is also allowed location for me. So if I will select Central India or East US, I will not get any error. What if I will select a different location like Australia Central? As you can see, right now I'm not getting any error. No worries. Let me click on review. Let's check validation. Validation failed. Why? Read error. So validation is failed just because there's a policy allowed location and require a tag, that 2 policies on this resource group. So first I need to follow allowed location, and which is Central India or East US. If I will select here, let's assume East US, and now let me click on review and create. Let's check validation. Validation failed. Read your error. As you can see, this time I'm getting recommendation only for 1 policy, require a tag and its values on resources. Just because I'm following location policy, but I didn't provide any tag to my resource, I'm getting here error. Let me provide tag also to my resource. Review and create. So validation will be passed this time. Click on create, deployment will be successful. So we tested 2 policies. So when it comes to authorizing your users into Microsoft Azure, we have 2 types of roles which we can assign to a user. So let's check the comparison between RBAC and Azure AD role. First of all, we have Azure AD roles. Then we have Azure RBAC role. Azure AD roles which you can assign to your identity so that they can manage your tenant services, that means your directory services. So manage access to Azure AD objects, Entra ID objects. Scope is the tenant level. It means we can scope permissions for our users at tenant level only. Role information can be accessed via Azure portal, Office 365 admin portal, Microsoft Graph services, Active Directory PowerShell for Graph, from where you can access the user's role. Now when it comes to RBAC, so manage access to Azure resources. What it does mean, it means if you have to create resources or if you need to authorize someone to create resources into your organization, then you will use RBAC role. You will authorize those users using RBAC role. Scope can be specified at multiple levels, and those levels would be first management group, where I can authorize my user, under management group subscription, under subscription resource group, under resource group resource. So we have multiple scope levels where I can scope permission for my user. So again, if I'm going to scope any permission to my user at management level, it will be inherited to down level. Remember that inheritance will be there by default. There are many built-in roles which you will get into your Microsoft Azure subscription. You can create your own custom role as well, which will be written into JSON. So you can create custom role as well if you have some granular requirement. You can write your role into JSON. So this would be example of role definition. Creating a role definition. When it comes to creating a role definition, you can see these are the default roles, built-in roles into Azure. Owner, contributor, reader. So there are three default roles: owner, contributor, and reader. Owner means full permission at scope level. Contributor means full permission. As you can see, this role definition for contributor. So action star. Any idea what it does mean by star here in actions? JSON is a key and value document. Any idea? What is the meaning of star? So key is action, and there's a value for this key which is star. It means contributor can perform any action, correct? But not except then authorization delete, authorization write, authorization evaluation. What it does mean? It means, let's take an example. This would be my resource group RG1, where in my tenant we have two users, user 1, user 2, user 1 who is owner of resource group, user 2 who is contributor for this resource group, and we created third user, user 3 here, but there's no permission for user 3 for this resource group. So user 1 who can perform any action just because user 1 is owner. So he can perform any action. It means he can create, update, delete, modify, as well as he can delegate other users to perform action. That means he can authorize other users as well on the scope level, so that others can also perform action based on the role which we will define. This will be done by owner only. When it comes to contributor can perform same actions which will be performed by owner except then delegation. So delegation is not performed by contributor. So contributor cannot delegate other users. So except then delegation, contributor can perform all actions like a owner on your scope level. That is a difference. So you will decide now based on your requirement which role you should apply to your user account. Owner, contributor. Reader means simply reader. So if any user who will be reader at any scope level, he would be able to list and read resources at that level. Then we have backup operator, security reader, user access administrator, virtual machine contributor, storage owner, virtual machine reader. Similarly, you will get multiple roles, built-in roles. Might be you need some custom requirement where you want someone can start and stop a virtual machine. So this will come in the custom role section where you will create custom role. Then we have custom roles like reader support tickets, which you have to create virtual machine operator who can operate virtual machine with some specific actions. Then you will create custom role in that case. So let's check this practically and let's understand how we will create identities and how we will apply roles to identities using RBAC. So I'm going to my portal, and if you're performing lab along with me, confirm in the chat box. So I'm in my default directory where I have a valid subscription. So first of all, I'm going to search Entra ID where I'm going to create users. So you have to create 3 users so that you can test your permission. So let me create a new user. Username will be, first user will be Azure user 1, password custom, review and create. Second user, Azure user 2, okay, already exists. 3, review and create user. Let me create. So I'm going to use this Azure user 2 as well. So 1, 2, 3, we have 3 users which are available into our directory. Now let me open a duplicate tab. If I will assign any Azure AD roles to these users, so they would be able to manage all these tasks which you will get on your directory, left hand side. Correct? They can manage tenant level, directory level services using Azure AD role, and scope will be tenant only. When it comes to RBAC, RBAC means we're talking about resource. So now let me go to resource group and let me create 2 resource groups here. So M2 RG1 module 2 resource group 1 location any. Let me create this resource group. Let me create another resource group M2 RG2 module 2 resource group 2. So let's check default permission of your user first. So I'm going to sign in with these users here into incognito window. First, I'm going to sign in with Azure user 1. So enter your temporary password, confirm your custom password. As you can see, I'm signing with my first user here. If I'm going to search resource group, as you can see, I'm not able to see any resource group here. But in my account, in my default directory, we have resource groups, 4 resource groups, 3 resource groups, 3 or 4 resource groups, correct? But I'm not able to see just because by default, I do not have any permission. I do not have any RBAC role. So let me sign in with second user and let's check second user permission and let me sign out with first user. Let me reset password of second user. Search resource group. There is no permission for second user. Let's do one thing. Let's check permission for third user as well. is check resource group. So no resource group is available for this user. Now we are going to assign permission to our users. So let me show you first of all hierarchy, correct? So left hand side on your portal, go to your menu bar, that is 3 tiles. Select all resources where you would be able to see your resources here, correct? So where you can see your resource visibility. Or what you can do, you can go to your subscription. So first I can authorize my user at this level. This would be my top level scope if I do not have any management group. So using single subscription, there is no meaning of management group. It means my subscription would be my top level scope. So here, first I can authorize my user from left hand side. As you can see, there is a tab access control. I can use this tab and I can assign roles to my user. Now, if I'm going to authorize any user at this level, he would be able to perform all actions which I'm going to allow at down level resources as well and down level resource groups as well. That means inheritance will be there. So let me draw a scenario. So this would be our subscription. Under our subscription, we have 2 resource groups. M1 RG1, sorry, M2 RG1 and M2 RG2. Here we have user 1. So user 1 who would be owner of this resource group. Then user 2 who would be contributor. User 3 who would be a reader for my subscription. Correct. And we will check the resource accessibility after assigning this role. So let's go to your portal and let's assign this role. So first I'm going to search resource group just because I'm going to assign role at resource group level first. So open your scope where you are going to apply role. M2RG1 first. Left hand side you will get access control tab. Here we have a tab add. Click on add. Then select add role assignment. So which role you are going to assign? We have 2 sections here. Job function role where you are going to assign roles to resources, resource level. Privilege administrator role where you will get privilege role for your resources for scope. So first owner, if you remember, the user 1 who will be owner of my M2RG1. So I'm going to select owner role. What it does mean by owner? So grant full access to manage all resources, including the ability to assign roles into RBAC, Azure RBAC. What it does mean? It means user can perform all action inside this scope in this resource group along with delegation. So select this role owner, then click on next. Whom you are going to assign this role to, any group or to any user. So click on select member. Right hand side you will get pop-up where you can select a user account or group account. I'm going to select user account as user 1. And then click on next, review, condition, where you can assign a condition, delegation type, which is recommended, and then you can assign a role condition or not constrained. So honor is privileged admin role that grants privileged administrator access, such as ability to assign roles to other users. So Microsoft recommend that you add a condition, narrow the permission of this role to least privilege. So this option is recently introduced by Microsoft. So there is change. Previously this option was not available. Correct. Just because honor is authorized, so honor can delegate other users as well. So you can create conditions where you can define when he can assign roles to other user. You can create your conditions. Correct. Or let me go back. Or if you want that this would be group owner or project owner, and he can delegate other user without any condition. So if you don't want to provide any least privilege, then in that case you will select not constrained. So we are going with not constrained right now. Let me select here next, review and assign. This role will be assigned to Azure user 1. Now go back to second resource group, M2RG2, same option, access control, add role assignment, privilege administrator role section, contributor role. So grant full access to manage all the resources similar to owner, but does not allow you to assign roles in RBAC. So it means delegation you will not get as a contributor. Next, select your member whom you are going to make contributor for this scope. Azure user 2. Select next. As you can see, I'm not getting condition tab here. Just because contributor is not allowed for delegation. If he is not allowed, then there is no condition. No need to define any condition. Review and assign. This role will be assigned to contributor. So we assign two roles, owner and contributor, to different level. Now let me assign reader role at my subscription level. So go to subscription, open your subscription. Left hand side you will get same tab, access control, add role assignment. Now this time reader role you will get under job function role. So let me select reader, who can view all resources but does not allow you to make any changes. So you can list and read your resources. Next, member, user 3 who would be member. Review and assign. Let's check the permissions now. So let's go to incognito mode and let me sign out with user 3. And I'm going to sign in with user 1 first. Such resource groups you would be able to see here. Now I'm able to see resource group, but I'm only able to see one resource group, M2RG1. Correct. Where into my organization, I have 5 resource groups, which you can see here. Correct. But I'm only able to see this resource group, M2RG1, just because I'm a owner of this resource group. So I can only see this resource group under this subscription, MS Team platform. First option. I can create any resource. Let me show you. Like I'm going to create route table, which we created yesterday. So search route table, create route table. Select existing resource group. If I'm trying to create new resource group, I will get error. M3RG1, you do not have permission just at subscription level. If you want to create resource group, so you should have permission at subscription level. So let me select my existing resource group. I can only create resources under this resource group. The name RT M2, review and create. As you can see, deployment is started and it will be completed. So I'm able to create resource. I can delete resource. I can modify resource. I have full permission just because I'm on owner. Let's check delegation permission as well. So before going to check delegation, let me show you, first of all, if I'm going to sign out with this Azure user 1, and I'm going to sign in with Azure user 2, who is contributor for M2 resource group, M2RG2. Search resource group. As you can see, I'm only able to see M2RG2 resource group as Azure user 2, and I'm contributor. I can also create any resource, route table, M2RG2, RT3, M2, review and create. So deployment will be start, and I'm authorized user, so I can create resources because I'm a contributor. Now let's check authorization, delegation. So let me sign in with again with this as your user one. I'm going to resource groups. Let me open my scope, access control, add role assignment. As you can see, all features are available for me just because I'm an owner. And at the scope level, I can authorize any user. So let me select reader role. Next, whom you're going to assign reader role? I'm going to assign reader role to Azure user 2. Review, assign. And once assignment will be done, sign out with user 1 and sign in with user 2 to check. Let me refresh. There would be delay if you will make any changes. So it will take few seconds. So right now, till now, I'm able to see only one resource group, M2RG2. But after few seconds, I would be able to see both resource group, M2RG1 and M2RG2. So for M2RG2, I would be contributor, and M2RG1, I would be reader. I can only read and list. Let me sign out and sign in once again. As you can see, I'm able to see now both resource groups. But when I'm going to create any resource, like I'm going to create a disk, let's assume. Again, disk is not our objective. Our objective is to understand permissions only. So if I'm going to select here M2RG1, I will get error. So disk name disk1, rest I'm leaving as it is. Let me click on next review. I will get error on validation. Why? Just because I'm not authorized. So you need to read your error. So you would be able to see you are not authorized user. So you do not have permission to create any resource inside this resource group M2RG1. If I will select M2RG2, I would be able to create this resource. My validation will be passed. Validation is passed. It means I can create this resource. So where you check your permission to both resource group. Now let me show you delegation part. Again, if I'm going on my scope level, that means M2RG2 where I'm contributor. And if I'll access control tab, let me click on add. Here, as you can see, all tabs are grayed out for me. Just because I'm a contributor. So I can perform all actions like a owner, but I cannot delegate other users. Owner can delegate and owner can perform all actions. Where nowadays we can restrict owner by creating conditions. Correct? I hope this part is clear to everyone. RBAC role. If you have any query, you can ask a question. We are done with this module number 2. If you have any query related to RBAC, you can ask a question. So hope this part is clear to everyone. When it comes to role assignments, as you can see, we can assign roles to security principals. Now, who would be security principal? So a user or a group or any service principal. Service principal means any application who need some access where you are going to authorize your applications using service principal rather than creating user accounts. That is known as service principal. Role definition, where I already explained you role definitions, scopes. So if we are using management group, then top level will be management group. Under management, subscription. Under subscription, resource group. Under resource group, resources. The last scope. So RBAC. When it comes to authentication and authorization, so authentication you will set up at tenant level using Azure AD rules. Correct. So you will create your identities on tenant, under tenant, where you will assign Azure AD role so that they can manage this tenant using Azure AD role. When it comes to resource management, then you will use RBAC role. Both are different. Azure AD and RBAC role, both are different. So AD role to manage tenants, RBAC to manage resources, and scope will be management group, subscription, resource group, and resources under your tenant. And there could be multiple subscriptions also, which you can purchase under a tenant. That is possible, which we already discussed yesterday. So we can purchase multiple subscription. If you will purchase multiple subscription, you will get multiple scope levels under a tenant. So RBAC permissions.